Good morning, grade sevens. Welcome to week 1 of our math lessons together. I am Mrs. Stang, for those of you that do not recognize my voice. And here we go. We're talking about gains and losses this week, which is a concept most of us should be fairly familiar with. You hear the word gain and loss in regular conversations. But mathematicians aren't regular conversations, so we use symbols to represent gains and losses. So a gain is represented with a plus sign, and a loss is represented by a minus sign. So if we said, I don't know, let's say over the weekend we gained $3. So we would have, in math speak, a gain of $3. And then this week I lost $10. So that would be minus $10. Okay. Now you can combine gains and you can combine losses. So if I gained $3 and then I gained another $6, I would have a total gain of $9, right? And then if I lost $2 and then lost another $5, I was very unlucky that week, I would have a loss of $7. Okay, does that make sense? So we use plus signs to show a gain, which usually means an increase. And then we use the minus sign or subtract sign to show a loss, which usually means a decrease. So what we can do is compare losses and gains. So if I have a loss of $3 and a gain of $5, which one was more? Did I gain more or did I lose more? Well, to figure that out, you just look at the numbers. So is 5 bigger or is 3 bigger? Well, most of us should agree that 5 is bigger. So this would be gained, right? Overall, in that situation, I actually gained because I had more gain than I did loss. So in B, I have a gain of $8 and then a loss of $12. So which one's bigger, gain or loss? So again, look at the numbers, 8 and 12. 12 is bigger than 8 and 12 is a loss. So overall, it was a loss. In C, I have a loss of $25 and a gain of $31. So overall, was it a loss or a gain? Again, look at the numbers, 25, 31. 31's bigger, and it is a gain. Okay, so let's do it using symbols, math symbols. So this, that means a loss of 3, and this is a gain of 5. So overall, I would have a gain. In E, I have a gain of 6 and a loss of 13. Which one's bigger? The loss is. F, I have a gain of 6 and a loss of 13. So which one's bigger? It would again be the loss. Now, we don't always have to do this with small numbers. We can do it with any size numbers, okay? So here we have a loss of 37 and a gain of 142. Which one's bigger? Doesn't matter what the number is. Don't get scared by big numbers. Just which one's bigger? The 142 is bigger and it's a gain, so I would overall have a gain. Remember, instead of writing gain, mathematicians can write plus, and instead of writing loss, mathematicians can write the subtract sign or the negative sign. Okay? Now, here's an interesting one. We have multiple gains and losses. So what we do when we have multiple situations is we group them. So here I have a combined gain of 5 and a loss of 4. So overall, I'm going to have, which one's bigger? A gain. Now here's my challenge for you. How much of a gain am I going to have? So 5 and 4 are the two numbers. 5 is how much bigger than 4? You're right. 5 is 1 bigger than 4. So I actually only have a gain of 1 overall. So let's take a look at the net gain or net loss. So net just means overall. So final answer. Okay, that's all net means. So in question A, I have a gain of 2 and overall a loss of 9. So if I'm looking at those two, overall, I'm going to have a loss, but how much of a loss? Well, if I started with 2 and I ended up with 9, what's the difference between those two? It is 7. So I end up with only a loss of 7. Right? Because the two gains actually take away 2 of the losses. So it makes the losses not so bad. Now over here in question B, I have 3 losses, 2 losses, and 6 losses. So altogether, how many do I have? Well, there's no gain, so it's all loss. And it's a loss of 11. In question C, I have 2 gains, which amount to a gain of 7, and then I have a loss of 2. So which one's bigger? Well, my gain is bigger. And how much bigger is the gain? It is 5 bigger. Question D. Group, what's the same? So I have a gain of 8 and a loss of 4. Overall, that means my gain is bigger. And how much bigger is it? It's bigger by 4. In E, they've separated the gains, but I can still group them even though they're not side by side. That's fine. So I have a total gain of 10 and a loss of 2. So overall, my gain is bigger. And how much bigger is the gain? 8. So same thing here. Solve just means what's the final answer? Okay, so we're doing exact same thing. So I have 2 gains, which would add up to give me a gain of 5 and a loss of 4. So overall, my gain is bigger, and it's bigger by 1. Okay. Here, I have a gain of 5 and a loss of 4. Gain's bigger by 1. Gain of 5, loss of 4. Gain is bigger by 1. Group your gains. So gain of 5, loss of 4, gain of 1. So what this is showing you is it doesn't matter where they are in the expression, you can group them. If they're the same, if they're both gains, then you can put them together, you can combine them, okay? Same thing with losses. If you have more than one loss, you can put them together and combine them, okay? So now here's a word problem. If in 1 week I gain $3, then gain $2, then lose $4, and another week I gain $2, lose $4, then gain $3, which week was a better week? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put week 1 and week 2. So week 1, the first thing that happened is I gained 3. Then I gained 2. Then I lost 4. So overall, I gained 5 and lost 4. So for the week, I have a gain of 1. Week 2, I gained 2. I lost 4 and I gained 3. So overall, I gained 5 and lost 4. So I gained 1. So which week was a better week? They were equal. Here we go. I want you to look closely at these though. Okay. I have 2 gains. So I would have a loss of 3 and a gain of 10, which gives me a gain of 7. Interesting. 7 was in my original question. Let's take a look over here. I have a gain of 10 and a loss of 3. I have a gain of 7. Again, there's 7 in my question. Look at this one. What happens if I combine an equal gain and loss? If I gain 3 and I lose 3, does anything change? No, it's 0. So basically, those two cancel each other out. So all I'm left with is a gain of 7. So let's try D. Can you see any that cancel out? Or that are an equal gain and an equal loss? Sure. We've got a gain of 3 and a loss of 3. So they cancel out to be 0. So all I'm left with is 7. So here's a trick. When you're looking to solve equal gain plus equal loss always equals 0. So let's take a look at this and try using that principle. I have a loss of 4 in A. Do I have a gain of 4 in A? Well, yes, I do. There's my gain of 4. So those two add up to 0. So all I'm left with is 7. Sorry, gain of 7. Okay. Gain of 5, loss of 5. They're going to become 0. So all I'm left with is gain of 7. Gain of 6, loss of 6. All I'm left with, gain of 7. Gain of 2, loss of 2. Overall, all I've got is 7. Now, if you understood that, that's all that you need to know for the big scary word of integers. That is all you need to know. Gains and losses and how to determine which one is bigger and by how much. That's it. Super easy. So here's something to think about. I don't have any money right now, as most of us don't, but I want to buy something. It costs $5. I know that I'll be getting money soon. How can I pay for it? Most people are going to say, I can borrow it. I can ask for someone to pay for it for me, and then I'll pay them back later. I can use my credit card. I could not buy it and wait till I have the money. That's probably the most responsible thing to do. However, most people would probably borrow it in some way, shape, or form. When they borrow it, it actually becomes a loss, right? Because they had nothing and they went under nothing. Okay. So our numbers can be rearranged in terms of gains and losses. But mathematicians like to have special terminology, so we use special words for gains and losses. Okay? Numbers that are less than 0 are called negative. Okay? So that would be a loss. Okay? So if you're talking about a loss, it's a negative number. Okay? So a number that is 5 less than 0 is called negative 5. What do you think numbers larger than 0 are going to be? Well, we've sort of given it away with our gains and losses symbols. So, whoops, come on. Oh, you're not going to give it to me. I have to use select. Sorry, guys. So, when we're talking about gains, we use the word positive. Okay? So, here's something else. Again, remember, mathematicians are what I like to say lazy, but if we're being nice to them, they are efficient. Okay? Negative numbers always have to have, always have to have the negative sign in front of them. So if you're talking about something less than 0, it has to have a negative in front of it. Positive numbers, on the other hand, don't. Okay? Because, think about this, when I write the number 2, it's automatically assumed it's a positive thing. I have 2 of them. Okay? Again, mathematicians are lazy and efficient, so very often you're not going to see the plus sign in front of a positive number. Okay? I also want you to take a look at this number line for a minute, and I want you to look at the numbers going this way. In particular, look at 0 going this way. What do you notice about those numbers? They are all getting larger, right? So what do you think about these numbers here? So will they still keep getting larger as I go left to right? Well, if the pattern holds for positives, it has to hold for negatives as well. Okay, so -1 is the largest negative you can have. Okay. The other thing you need to notice is that there are numbers that are exactly the same except for the symbol in front of them. Those are called opposites because they are exactly the same. They just have the opposite sign in front of them. You also notice they are exactly the same distance from 0. 0 is sort of our middle point for integers. If you wanted to think about it, if you folded this number line, all the numbers would line up. So +1 would line up with -1, +2 would line up with -2. So all of them line up except for 0. Okay, so does 0 have an opposite? No, indeed. 0 does not have an opposite. 0 is a very special number. So let's take a look at these. This number here, is that a positive number or a negative number? Remember, positive means gain, negative means loss. So this is a gain. Oops, sorry, gotta go back. Go back. There we go. So this is a gain of 5, so that would be positive 5. What about this number here? That is a loss of 7, so it is a negative number. Let's do the easy ones first. This is a gain of 2, so it's positive 2. This is a gain of 4, so it's positive 4. This is a gain of 3, so it's positive 3. This is a loss of 4, so it's negative 4. This is a loss of 2, so it's negative 2. Now, what about this? Remember what I said before? Mathematicians are efficient, so if there's no sign in front of it, it is automatically positive. So 7 is also going to be positive. And what did I say about poor old 0? Well, poor old 0 isn't either. It is not positive and it is not negative. Okay? Now, I want you to pay close attention to all the different ways that we've written integers here. Sometimes they're going to be with brackets. Sometimes they're not going to be with brackets. Sometimes they're going to be with a positive sign. Sometimes they're not going to be with a positive sign. So don't get freaked out, especially if you see the brackets. The brackets are just there to show you that that is indeed a negative sign as opposed to add 3. Okay? Or sorry, a positive sign as opposed to add 3, and that this is a negative 4 and not subtract 4. Okay? That's all it means. So, this number line, by the way, very useful. So if you need to have a number line, you may want to copy a number line out on a piece of paper so that you have it while you're working with integers. So Tom had no money. No money means 0. Okay? But then he spent $2 on his credit card. So is that a gain or a loss, spending $2 on his credit card? That would definitely be a loss. So Tom is sitting at -2. Now, Ahmed has $6. Is that a gain or a loss? That is definitely more than 0, right? And more than is always to the right. So more than is going to be +6. So Ahmad has $6, but then he spent $11 on his credit card. So spending is a loss because you're giving it to someone else. You no longer have it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So Ahmad is now here and his situation is -11. Sorry, not -11, excuse me, -5. Sorry, -5. Whose situation is better? Tom's or Ahmed's? Hopefully you said Tom, because Tom only has to gain $2 to be back at 0. Ahmed has to gain $5 to be back at 0. Does everybody see that? How it's a lot easier for Tom to make up the difference than it is for Ahmed to make up the difference? Okay. So let's take a look at this. A, -3, whoops, come here. Come on, circle. -3 and +2. Which one is smaller? Remember, as you're going from left to right, things get larger. So the smaller number is going to be the one closest to the left. So in this case, which one's smaller? -3. B, -1 or +4? Well, -1 is here, +4 is here. So which one is further to the left? -1. +1 or -3? Locate both on the number line. Which one's to the left? -3. D, 8 or -8? Put your fingers on 8 and -8. Which one's to the left? -8. E, -5 or +2? Put your fingers on -5 and +2. Which one's to the left? -5. Negatives are always, smaller than positive. So that means +1 is always bigger than any negative number. So you could say -1,000 and I could beat it with +1. Kind of cool. So take a look at these two. 2 is what compared to 5? So think about our number line again. Okay, 2 is what? 2, come on, is what compared to 5? Which one's to the left? Oops. 2 is, come on, pen, less than 5. And then if I look at the negatives, what about -2 and -5? Well, now which one's to the left? Now, -5 is to the left, so that means -5 is the smaller number. So this is what we mean when we say opposites, okay? Whatever holds true for positives, it becomes opposite when you talk about the other type of number. And whatever holds true for negatives becomes opposite when you're talking about positives. Kind of cool. So think about your number line. I'm not going back to it this time. So think about your number line. -3 is what compared to -4? So again, which number is further to the left? -4 is further to the left, which makes -4 smaller. -7 and -5. Which one's smaller? -7 is further to the left, which makes it smaller, so it is less than -5. The other way you can look at it is closer to 0 is bigger negatives, right? Because in the positives, the closer you get to 0, the smaller your number is. So if we're thinking about the negatives, it's the opposite, okay? So let's take a look at -6 and -9. So instead of figuring out which one's smaller, let's figure out which one's bigger. So bigger is closer to 0. So which one of these is closer to 0? Well, -6 is closer to 0, which makes it bigger. -2 and -1, which one's closer to 0? -1, which makes it bigger than -2. We can do this with any kind of number. So take a look at -134 and -135. This one's a little tough because they're right side by side. But if you follow the pattern from 0, -1, -2, -3, -4, and so on, which one of these, -134 or -135, is closer to 0? It's going to be -134, so that is bigger than -135. Okay, now we've already talked about opposites, so we should be able to go through this very quickly. So if I'm a gain of 3, let's go back to the terminology we were using. If I have a gain of 3, what's the opposite of a gain of 3? It would be a loss of 3. And the opposite of a loss of 5 would be a gain of 5. What about C? Is that a gain or a loss? There's no symbol in front of the 4, so that means it is a gain of 4. So the opposite would be a loss of 4. Make my 4 an actual 4. There we go. D is a loss of 10, so the opposite would be a gain of 10. Again, I don't have to write the plus sign. Okay. This is a gain of 7, so loss of 7. For loss, I have to write negative. And this is gain, F is gain of 3, so the opposite would be negative 3. And so what the blurb at the bottom says is notice that they are the same distance from 0, just in opposite directions. That's why we call them opposites. Same distance, just going opposite directions. One's going to the right, one's going to the left. From 0. 0 is always our reference point when we're talking about integers. So take a look at this. So based on this number line, where would negative 3 go? Well, it's got to go less than 0, and it's got to be bigger than 5, and it's almost in the middle. Little closer to negative 5. Okay. What about negative 8? Well, it's less than 0, and it's between 5 and 10, so negative 8 would go about there. Negative 2, again, is a negative, so it would go between 0 and negative 3, right? Because it's got to be closer to 0 than negative 3 is. What do we got next? Positive 7. So that's between 5 and 10. And then what about this E? The number 5 is the same thing as positive 5. So when I put them in order from smallest to largest, remember smallest is on the left, my smallest number there is going to be negative 8. Then I'm going to have negative 3, negative 2, 5, and 7. That's why I'm saying a number line is really going to help you with this math. Okay, it really, really helps. And that's it. So for the rest of the time you have, which is about an hour and a half, I'd like you to work on pages 132, 133, and 134 that are attached below this on this assignment. Okay? If you have any questions, please feel free, post them in the mathematics stream. I or Mr. Brunet will help you with any questions you may have. Have a great day, Falcons. See you next week.